The man's voice was calm when he finally spoke the words no one was sure they would ever hear. He said he did it. He said the child was gone forever. Decades had passed, but in that moment, time collapsed. A boy who vanished inside a shopping mall was no longer just a missing face on a flyer. The case that America had slowly forgotten was suddenly alive again. And the truth was darker than anyone imagined. But before the confession, before the cold case files were pulled from dusty shelves, there was a single afternoon that began like any other. And that is where everything went wrong. On July 27, 1981, 6-year-old Adam Walsh walked into the Sears department store at the Hollywood Mall in Florida with his mother. It was hot outside. The mall was busy, loud, and full of families. Adam was small for his age, curious and excited. His mother let him walk a short distance ahead to look at video games being demonstrated in the toy department. She believed he was safe. The mall felt safe. When she returned to get him, Adam was gone. At first, it didn't feel real. She checked nearby aisles. She called his name. She asked store workers if they had seen a little boy with brown hair. Minutes passed, then more minutes. The panic came fast. Security was called. The store was searched. The mall doors were locked, but Adam was nowhere inside.
Police arrived and took a report, but the response was slow. At that time, child abductions were not handled the way they are today. There was no Amber Alert system. There were no instant nationwide alerts. Officers believed Adam might have wandered off or been taken by a parent. Hours passed before the danger was fully understood. By nightfall, Adam Walsh had vanished. Search teams combed the area. His face appeared on television screens across Florida. His parents begged the public for help. Tips came in, but none led to Adam. Days later, something unthinkable happened. A severed head was found in a canal over 100 miles away. Dental records confirmed it belonged to Adam. His body was never found.
The case shocked the nation. A child had been taken from a public place in the middle of the day. Parents everywhere were terrified, but fear did not bring answers. The investigation struggled from the start. Evidence was mishandled. Witness statements conflicted. Leads were followed and then collapsed. One suspect stood out. His name was Otis Toole, a drifter with a violent past. He was questioned, released, questioned again. He gave different stories every time. Sometimes he confessed, sometimes he denied everything. There was no physical evidence strong enough to hold him. The case slipped through the cracks. Years passed, then more years.
Adam's parents refused to let his name disappear. His father later became the face of America's Most Wanted, helping track criminals who might otherwise escape justice. But even as the country changed, Adam's case stayed frozen in time. No arrest, no trial, no closure. Slowly, the headlines stopped. New crimes took the spotlight. A generation grew up without knowing Adam's name. The case became one of many cold files sitting in storage, marked unsolved. Then, decades later, something unexpected happened. A man already known for terrible crimes began talking again. Older now, sicker, less careful with his words. He spoke about the day at the mall, about the child, about what he had done after.
Closely. This time, the details were different. This time, they matched facts only the killer would know. The confession was not loud or dramatic. It was quiet, almost casual, but it reopened a wound that had never healed. And just as the truth seemed within reach, a final obstacle appeared. The man who confessed was already dead, and with him, the chance for justice may have vanished forever.
The room went quiet when investigators realized the truth might finally be clear, yet forever out of reach. The man who confessed was no longer alive. Otis Toole had died years earlier in prison. There would be no trial, no jury, no sentence spoken out loud. The words "case closed" felt heavy and unfinished. For Adam Walsh's family, the pain did not end. It changed shape. The truth had come too late. But to understand how America reached this point, we have to go back to the days after Adam vanished, when hope was still alive and every ringing phone felt like it might bring him home.
In the early days of the search, Adam's parents believed someone had to know something. Volunteers flooded the area around the mall. Police questioned shoppers, store workers, and security guards. One witness said he saw a man arguing with a group of boys near the video game display. Another said the boys were kicked out of the store for fighting. Adam was last seen with them. That small detail mattered. It suggested Adam had not wandered off alone. Someone had taken him. Soon, police learned about Otis Toole. He was already known to law enforcement. He drifted from town to town. He had no steady job, no stable home, and a long history of violence. He had been in the area at the time Adam disappeared. When questioned, Toole acted strange. He talked too much, then too little.
At first, he denied everything. Then he confessed. He said he took Adam. He said terrible things about what happened next. Investigators believed they finally had their man, but belief was not enough. There were problems everywhere. Toole's confession did not match some early details. Evidence from the crime scene had been lost or destroyed. The car Toole claimed he used was already gone. There was no body to examine, no clear forensic proof. Worst of all, Toole changed his story again. He said he lied. He said police pressured him. He said he just wanted attention. The case began to fall apart. Prosecutors could not move forward. Without solid proof, they had no case that would survive in court.
Adam Walsh's abduction became a lesson in everything that could go wrong. Evidence handling, witness timing, slow response. At the time, police did not treat missing children as emergencies unless proof of violence was clear. That delay cost precious hours. As years passed, anger replaced confusion. Adam's parents spoke openly about failures in the system. They demanded change. And change did come, but not fast enough to save Adam. New laws were created. National databases were formed. The Amber Alert system was born. Children's cases were taken seriously from the first moment. Adam's death helped protect millions of children who would never know his name. But behind the progress, the case itself faded.
Files were boxed up. Detectives retired. Witnesses moved away or died. The mall was remodeled. The toy department changed. The spot where Adam stood no longer looked the same. Time erased the physical place, but not the pain. For Adam's family, forgetting was never an option. Every birthday that never came, every holiday with an empty chair, every unanswered question, they lived with the truth that someone had taken their child and walked away. Then, many years later, the past knocked again. In the early 2000s, investigators reopened the case using new methods. They reviewed old statements. They listened again to recordings of Toole's confessions. This time, they noticed things that had been missed before. Specific locations, small details, details that were never made public. Toole had known them.
By then, Toole was dead, but the evidence spoke louder than he ever had. In 2008, police officially named him as Adam Walsh's killer. The case was closed on paper. For some, it brought relief. For others, it felt hollow. There would be no courtroom, no moment where Adam's name was spoken as justice was delivered. And still, one question refused to rest. Was Otis Toole the only one involved? Rumors had followed the case for decades, whispers of another man, another name, another shadow that never fully stepped into the light. Some investigators believed Toole had help. Others believed he protected someone else by keeping his story messy. Those questions never disappeared.
And just when the truth seemed settled, a new doubt surfaced, one that threatened to reopen everything and force investigators to ask if America had closed the wrong case. And that doubt would change everything again. Even after Otis Toole was named as the killer, the shadow of doubt lingered over Adam Walsh's case. Investigators had pieced together what they could, but decades of lost evidence, conflicting statements, and Toole's own manipulations meant that the full story might never be known. For Adam's family, there was no sense of closure, only the reminder of a child stolen too soon and a system that failed him. The morning Adam disappeared replayed endlessly in their minds. His mother remembered the sound of mall music, the chatter of shoppers, the small hand that had slipped away from hers in seconds. That fleeting moment became an eternity. Investigators still reviewed old files, spoke to witnesses again, and tried to reconstruct what happened. Each new insight offered small comfort, but also a sharp reminder of how fragile life could be.
One detail that haunted detectives was Toole's erratic confessions. Sometimes he described a single act, sometimes multiple people were involved. Sometimes he admitted to horrible acts, but could not say where Adam's body had been hidden. This uncertainty fueled speculation that he had not acted alone and that others might still know the truth. Rumors swirled of accomplices who disappeared into the shadows, leaving families and investigators with more questions than answers. Adam's father, John Walsh, turned grief into action. He became the public face of missing children advocacy, creating America's Most Wanted. Every broadcast was a plea for vigilance, a warning to parents, and a chance to catch criminals before another child disappeared. In interviews, he often reflected on the mistakes made in his son's case and the changes needed to prevent future tragedies. His voice reached millions, and slowly, policies and awareness shifted nationwide. Despite the systemic reforms, the emptiness left by Adam's disappearance remained. Even today, the mall where he was taken holds a silent memory. The places he loved, the streets he walked, the toys he would have played with, all reminders of a life cut short. For many Americans, Adam's story is a grim symbol. One child lost, a family forever changed, a nation learning to protect the innocent. The most chilling reality is that for decades, Adam's abduction sat in the shadows, forgotten by the public and unresolved by the system. Even after Toole's death and official closure, the case continues to raise questions. Was every detail fully uncovered? Did someone else know? Could justice have been more complete if the investigation had moved faster? For viewers, the story leaves a final, piercing thought. How many other taken and forgotten cases exist, hidden in dusty files, waiting for answers that may never come? Every missing child carries the possibility of being forgotten, and every parent carries the fear that their child could vanish without warning. Adam Walsh's life ended too soon, but his story became a warning, a call to action, and a haunting reminder. The case may have closed on paper, but the questions, the pain, and the lessons linger, echoing in the minds of parents, law enforcement, and all of us who hear his story.
And as we look at the empty spaces left behind, the chilling truth remains. Sometimes, even when justice arrives decades later, it cannot undo the horror of being taken and forgotten. The years stretched on, but the memory of that July day never faded. For Adam's family, every morning brought a reminder of what was lost. Every milestone he would have reached, every birthday, every first day of school, gone. The world had moved on, but for them, time had frozen in the moment he was taken. Investigators pored over the case again and again, analyzing every fragment of evidence, listening to every witness who remembered even the smallest detail. Each new lead offered hope, but also frustration. Some tips were dead ends, others contradicted one another. And with Otis Toole gone, there was no one left to confront, no chance to ask why he had done it, no way to demand the answers that would have given the Walsh family some semblance of peace.
Yet through tragedy, Adam's story became a force that reshaped child safety in America. His father, John Walsh, turned the unimaginable pain of losing a son into a lifetime mission. Missing children began to be taken seriously from the very first hour. Amber Alerts were implemented nationwide, and families across the country learned that even a few moments of inattention could be life-changing. Adam's death, as heartbreaking as it was, became a catalyst for protecting countless other children. But the haunting part remained. The final details of Adam's abduction may never be fully known. Questions lingered about Otis Toole's accomplices, about what really happened in those hours at the mall, and whether other victims were lost to history. The case reminded everyone that sometimes justice arrives too late, and that some truths may never be fully uncovered. Even decades later, Adam's name is not forgotten. It lives on in memory, in law enforcement reforms, in the eyes of families of missing children, and in every effort to prevent another child from being taken and forgotten. His story is a warning and a call to action, a reminder of what can happen when vigilance fails, and how vital it is to fight for justice, even when hope seems lost.
The horror of that day will never leave, but the lessons it taught the nation remain. Adam Walsh was taken and for too long forgotten. But through remembrance, advocacy, and awareness, he became more than a victim. He became a legacy, ensuring that no child's disappearance will ever be treated lightly again. The story ends here, but the echo of Adam's loss continues to resonate, urging every parent, every community, and every law enforcement officer to remain vigilant. Because the unthinkable can happen in the blink of an eye, and sometimes a child taken can never truly be forgotten.